People familiar with my content may notice I look different today. I'm wearing smarter clothes. It's actually more of a social experiment, to be totally honest. I've had this in my wardrobe for about a decade. I had it for a wedding back in 2015. So, yeah, it's been there. Of course, since then, I have put on a little bit of weight. So, it's been harder to get things on. It feels tighter. I actually do like dressing smart, believe it or not. I've always enjoyed it. It's just sometimes I think the environments we surround ourselves in, the places we live, you would stand out like a sore thumb. And, it's just not the way the average person lives. And, I think makes people look nicer for sure. But the side of it I want to express within it is the fact that I've always found it quite interesting how, depending on your attire, people will treat you differently and have a different expectation of you. So I like to wear my hoodie. I like to feel comfortable. Now, people maybe see me in a certain way, just in relaxed clothing. Maybe they don't realize how intelligent I am. Maybe they don't take me so serious. I mean, maybe they do, maybe they don't. But I always find that quite interesting that if the smarter you dress, the higher the perception someone will have of you. And that goes hand in hand with this video that I'm talking about, because I'm working on my upcoming book. Believe me, I've had days where I don't want to touch it at all. And it was just in the middle of the night, I thought I'm just going to do a little bit of work. And it calls into question the power and the corruption of this world. So we have people in very high places, very prominent, wealthy. They're powerful, dictating and dominating the world. So we have to live an existence that is ordained by us, by other people who position themselves higher than the rest of us. Doesn't seem fair to me, doesn't seem right, but everybody just conforms, just gets on with their life and tries to just take the little bit of breadcrumb they're given. Because, the average person is we're just ordinary. So we're not taken as seriously, I guess. And maybe we're not seen as worth investing in. So we're just given the breadcrumbs while they dictate. And the reality is, though, anybody can wear a suit. Anyone can look fancy. So that means that we've got people potentially above us who position themselves higher, who are inept, incapable. They don't have the best values. Look, I've suffered this myself in job places. I've had people who posture themselves higher. They've got a higher position than me, whatever. And they are inept. They're morons, really. But, they present themselves in such a way that gives them an authority. And I always thought to myself, I could dress smart. I can look the part. I can do what you do. And I don't doing that trying to position myself higher than other people. It's just all I'm doing there is just recognizing the corruption, the ineptitude of some people. And we have this in politics, believe me. We've got the politicians who they'll all wear fancy clothes, don't they? They look the part, look smart. So you think, they know what they're talking about. So many of them don't. So many of them, there will be some who went in with the best of intentions. Anyone who holds public office are there to serve the people. So they have constituents. So it doesn't matter if you're in America, it doesn't matter what country, in the UK, it doesn't matter where they are. They were elected by the people to represent them and be the voice of them within government. A lot of them lose sight of their values, like why they're there in the first place. What it is, they get there, some of them get there on, positive, pure intentions. But then the power trip gets to them. Oh, rather than just be this, I can be that. If I be this, then I can be this. And eventually they'll fit that a lot of them start looking at being the head of a party. So eventually become the prime minister or the president. It's just, the ambitions go wild. So to do that, you've got to do some dodgy dealings. You have to have a handshake with this person, a handshake with that person. Your values start getting warped. Some people were already dodgy to begin with. Some people just lost their way along the way. But the sad part is, all of them are there to be the voice of the people. And if governments were acting in alignment with people, then they would do what everybody needs them to do. So, there's examples in either country. And this isn't really about that, but I guess it is when I'm talking about this topic, because there's something else I was going to talk about a bit more serious. But even if you was to say, for instance, if we're talking about America, what does America need the most? It needs a fair healthcare system, doesn't it? It needs balance within that. And, I can only look at differences between countries. And I think when America and the UK are so aligned, you would consider us balanced and equals. We're not. We're so different on different metrics. America has an issue with healthcare costs. It's insane. You can be bankrupt from just an injury. You know, just heaven forbid there's a long-term illness, and I've seen the prices just to have a baby. It's just insane. That's not fair. That's not balanced. Certainly not right. Then you've got issues within the job market. From my understanding, if you go from state to state, there's different rules, regulations, which is crazy. So it's almost like each state is a country to itself, but then it has to conform to whatever governance comes from the White House. It just seems strange. A president has authority over certain parts, and then there's other parts where it's really the state determining things. So you wouldn't know. Anyone living in one place goes to another place. It's like you don't know how the hell do you know where you stand? But for me, those are so the job market for me in America is a rather strange one in the sense that there's not always rules around holiday periods, and I think that's quite disgusting. That jobs expect you to live your life to serve them, when really the job is to serve you and your lifestyle. And that's where I think America, the salaries can be higher than the UK, but cost of living's higher. Also, higher demands on the people. And again, it makes no sense. My way of looking at life in terms of work is there to provide a salary to supplement my life. My life is more important than anything else I do. But within workplaces, especially America, it's a case of you are there to serve the job, and the time you get off is a luxury. It's like, that is insane. That is absolutely insane. And until things even out, people's lives are going to be miserable. So on the one hand, you work to death to the point where you have illnesses, and then when you get ill, you have to lose all the salary you've earned trying to repay and recoup everything, all the support you've had from the healthcare. I mean, there are only two issues, but if you was a leader who's there for the people, these are things you would set right. You would want healthcare costs to come down. You would want universal healthcare. You want it you want it to be fair and balanced, and perhaps even free for all. Just take it out of some taxes. And then also you'd want to give people, surely, the opportunity to have holidays, to spend time with their family, to go and have experiences, travel, broaden their horizons, That surely these are two fundamentals. Of course, there's other issues as well. I'm seeing issues within housing where prices dramatically, let's mention rent prices dramatically increase like crazy. There's property tax from my understanding. There is an ignorance on my part. I don't know all of the American freaking politics and the systems because, again, varies wildly between states, but I am fairly educated on certain things. And so if you could pay the mortgage on your home, but you still never truly own the home because you have to pay property tax. It's similar in the UK to council tax, but I think it's far more severe. So in America, if you don't pay your property tax, which is for the land you're sitting on, then the government will end up, or the bank, I think it's the government, I don't really know which, but they'll take your home and they sell it. And it's just crazy. So you never truly own it. So that's something I'm inherently aware of. If you was to buy a property in America, you better have enough to fulfill the property tax for the rest of your life. So you're never truly able to retire and be free because you've always got this crisis. And it's based on the value of your home, and it can be absolutely insane. Now, I don't know all the range in the UK with council tax. There is deemed upon property bans, but I think there is some sort of like cap on it, So I don't think it goes as wild. A council tax goes as wild as property tax in America, but it's still something that people are fed up with. So again, focus on some of the issues in America. Of course, there's deeper issues there. We've got this ICE raids treating people inhumanely, but there's some people that don't believe in immigration. They don't like foreigners being in their country. Bigotry and things, there are issues there, and there's something I'm going to touch on in my upcoming book, because I do think there's a systematic problem in the United States that spreads like a plague around the rest of the world. America isolates itself an awful lot, but acts like it's very welcoming to people. So their ignorance to other cultures, other people, as a whole, not every person, not every part of community, but there is this attitude, a negative attitude to the rest of the world. That affects other countries, because then other countries are not as open and tolerant as others, because America isn't, and that's what you get for the media and entertainment industry. So I often see a lot of issues that beginning America spread around the rest of the world and become norms. So if America was more welcoming to foreigners and they blended far better, I think personally it would have a huge impact on the rest of the world, because people would take note. So America is very prominent and influential, more than perhaps they even realize. So we go away from that, and then we go over to the UK, and we have our own issues. They're seemingly small, but they are huge in the psyche of individuals. And I'm going to just share my own little opinion. It's not a big thing. It's not a big thing, but I have issues that it's often overlooked and people don't really talk about. It is a silly thing in comparison to the issue there with America with healthcare. That's a big one. And the job situation in terms of not having holidays. These are not things we deal with in the UK. We have the universal healthcare, whether we've paid a lot in taxes or haven't paid any in taxes. If we're a native, we're a citizen, we can just go doctors, we go hospital. It's no cost involved. We don't concern ourselves with that. The only difference is the dentist. It's a different thing entirely. And the other one was the jobs. Everybody's entitled to holiday from the moment you start a job. But you are expected to accrue it over time. I think it's like half a day for every 2 weeks. So most people, I think, usually get about 30 days a year holiday, and that includes your bank holidays. So in the UK, we have holiday periods. Say where America would have maybe 4th of July and all those things. But we just have a lot more. It's usually for royal situations, It's more of a celebration for the royal family, most part of them. And so with certain periods, it's usually I think you get 2 in May, I think you get 2 in August or 1 in August. I can't remember the exact ones. They usually come up and you go, oh, this is nice. So it's a day off work, or if you go to work, you usually get extra pay for going in. Win-win. Plus you also get holiday allowance, which is usually about, I think, 3 weeks. I think it's 3 weeks. Some people get 4 weeks. I think it's between 3 and 4 weeks a year holiday. And you can take them whenever you want. You can take them one day at a time. But that's what we have in the UK. It's just fair. So one of the things I hate, because our wages aren't really high for the average person, so we do have to. It does get a bit tighter. So our cost of living is probably not as high as America, but our wages are lower. So our income's harder on each individual. It's not fit for single people. So I'm a single person. It's not really fair. There's a lot. You don't get any subsidies or anything that's split. So you are expected to live off half an income. I see an awful lot of couples complaining about how hard it is for them, and they think it's harder than everybody else. And it doesn't make sense, because you've got double the income when someone else has got half your income and they still have the same bills as you. Nothing's any easier. Nothing gets reduced, really. Council tax, so the property tax, the council tax, 25% cheaper, not 50% cheaper. So you're still paying more per person than a couple. So I don't understand why that's not 50% off, making that fair. And there's a lot of people who have issues with that. And I personally don't understand it myself. Think about this, and it's not just UK, it's everywhere. You pay tax on your income. So you go to work, you get taxed on that, you get national insurance. I don't know what America gets, but it's similar things. You get deductions from your salary. So before you even receive it, the government's took money out of your pocket. And then every time you spend money, whether it's services, products, or whatever. So even if you just go to the shop, you buy a newspaper. You go to the shop, you buy some candy. You go to the shop, do your grocery shopping. You buy something for your car. You have someone maybe come to visit and they do some repairs. It's just whatever's happening, book a holiday. Everything's taxed pretty much. I think everything is, really. So you've been taxed as before you received your money, and then everything you spend your money on also has a tax on it, which just in the UK we don't see it because it's hidden. In a way, I think it's better, because then you know what you're paying at each turn, but those prices are inclusive of the tax. So that means you've also been taxed further on the salary you have. And then, of course, you've got this limited budget, and it's constantly getting washed away by everything you're spending money on. And then you also get council tax each month, or you pay it annually. I do my monthly. And it's a pain in the arse. It pays for services like your local police force, the fire service. It pays for your schools. It pays for public libraries. It pays for the garbage collection, But then it begs the question, what does the tax go to, though? So you're paying taxes on everything. You're paying taxes on every product and a service you spend money on. You're paying taxes at the source, as you receive your money. And then you're also paying tax directly to the local authority for them to distribute within the community. But then what does the rest of it go to? It's just ridiculous. It's just hemorrhaging money. So you lose in bits and drabs that maybe you don't realise, and then you lose wholesale in one big payment as well. So when we talk about like the corruptions and it's like there's a huge corruption in taxation, because we don't know where it goes. It's not transparent. So for instance, we never get a say in how it's spent. So let's say you don't believe in a war, but the tax you spent money towards, you've contributed, goes towards funding wars. Well, I didn't agree to that. So what? You should have a say. There should be, if you've got to pay tax, it should be able to. You put it in. there should be some way of marking that as, I want this to go towards public service, or I want this to go to the impoverished, I want this to go to this. That's how it should, and then distribute from that pot or something, because this corruption is outrageous. There's government contracts that go towards people who have either either supported that individual. This is what I said about the MPs, the corruption that extends within governance, where you do a handshake to get this opportunity, a handshake to do that opportunity. Maybe you give someone a contract, it boosts their income, they'll give you a little bit of money and it'll help you out. There's all this dodgy shit that goes on. Where'd they get the money from? Everybody. So they're just bouncing money around like it's free monopoly money. And meanwhile, your life's hard as a consequence, especially as an individual on a low income. Now, there's one thing in the UK that bothers me a lot. There's only very minimal countries have a similar system. I think, from my understanding, Germany have something similar as well. I'm not sure of every country, but we have to have a TV license. And in America, they don't understand this at all. And it shouldn't even be a thing. It's been since forever. Even if you don't even watch telly and things, it's for live content. So if you watch BBC, so we have to pay, that's what we're paying towards. BBC, radio, or TV, or live broadcast TV. So we can watch the streaming services or anything that was catch up. So if something was aired an hour ago and now it's available on a service, but you didn't record it, you can then watch it. You just can't watch it live. What a stupid system. And it is a lot of money. And the reason I say it's a lot of money is because it's not fit for purpose. It's about £180 now a year. You might not think that's a lot, but break it down monthly. It's similar to a Netflix package. Why would I want this instead of Netflix? At least Netflix, I can get stuff I can actually watch and actually enjoy more than this stuff. The other thing that a lot of people don't talk about is, and I've had this myself, which is why I just give up on it. It's just a joke. Sometimes you think, oh yeah, I like sport. It gives me access to sport. So you sign up and you go, I'm going to do it monthly. They don't let you do it monthly properly. They expect you to pay your whole TV license in 6 months. And then after that, you're paying for the next one. It's a stupid, and then they wonder why people don't join. So let's say it's £13 a month. You're thinking, Jesus, I think it's about 15 now or something, 18. I can't remember. It's just stupid. And then you join, you go, I'll do monthly. All of a sudden, you've got to find £30 a month for something stupid. You're like, what? I ain't paying you £30 a month. And they make it so hard that it's just ridiculous. And it's just, you know what? I'm not paying this for that. So a lot of time, I only think of having it so I can watch live sport. So what they're doing is they're affecting the whole British culture. Because people who can't afford or don't want the TV license now have to forego sport as well. Because it's affected deeply. So if ever the broadcasters wonder why the subscriptions are lower and lowering, it's because it's bound to this bloody TV license. If it weren't for that, I would subscribe to the sport. But it just makes it ridiculously expensive. You think, okay, I'll pay this, I'll pay that, now pay that. You're paying about £80 a month just to watch sport. I'm not paying that. No, just because the TV license is greedy as shit. That should be abolished. But now there is suggestion that it might be included. They might try and gain it another way because a lot of people have cancelled their license. I have. I don't pay it. I just don't go anywhere near watching live telly. And they do that. So you can't even watch the news live. It's just stupid, isn't it? They don't even think it all through. They're just muppets. And then they wonder why people are leaving in droves because it's corrupt. Again, where does the money go? You start finding about all the corruptions and things within the broadcasting. So people don't want to fund that either. So people have their own reasons for not having something, of course. But now they're talking about either including it in subscription services, so it gets funded that way, so that way more people pay it, or include it in your council tax. It's like you're just having a joke. Rather than say, we're going to get rid of this, which most people want, and make it a subscription service where those who want it pay for it, they're trying to find ways to force us to keep having it. It's just ridiculous. And they don't realise it's little things like that are pushing people away from believing in politics and things, because it's the one thing that the majority of people actually are in favour of abolishing, the TV licence. It seems marginal to them, but when your finances are tight, these matter. So when the council tax keeps going up, it becomes prohibitively expensive. People can't afford it. And then on top of that, you get this stupid TV licence that is just, how is that essential? Anyway, gone well off. So we're talking about corruption here. I'm not going to give everything away that's in my upcoming book, Freedom and Politics. But if anyone thinks I'm scared to talk on topics, I'm not. Sometimes I just save it for another day. I'm saving it for something special. So if anyone sees me, I talk about a lot of issues in the world. I haven't spoke about, well, I don't think I have, about the conflict in Iran at the minute with Trump. I'm dealing with it in my book. So you'll hear my opinion on it in my upcoming book. It won't be too far into the future if I can keep focused, but I'm getting a bit fed up because, as I just said, my finances get hard. They get hit hard. And it's hard to stay motivated when you're suffering every day. You know, sometimes I just get resentful and I'm like, you know what, I've just done a book this year. I'm not going to keep doing this at this rate because I'm suffering and I'm just sick of it. You know, I like to do what I do, but when your life is this hard, it's just unbearable sometimes, you know. And it is. I'm not looking for this pity party, like I say. I'm just explaining. So if it doesn't come out as expected, it's really because I struggle to stay motivated all the time because it's just like you have to find a balance in life, you know. But anyway, so I will be touching on things like that. I'm not going to give away what's in the book totally. But right now, I've just been writing about the Jeffrey Epstein situation. Now, there's certain levels I'm prepared to go with this, and certain areas I won't. Like, for instance, and again, it will change. It will organically change as I develop the book. At the moment, I'm not including other people's names that have been accused because I don't know how fluid it is. I wouldn't want to. For instance, you could talk about someone on camera, and then you could delete the video if you think that's a bit not. You shouldn't really have done that. I'm not going to delete an entire book just because something's mentioned in the pages of a book. But I do it. But there is a level of accountability and understanding that a book is permanent. So everything I say, I must feel comfortable saying. So if I was to, let's say there's someone, it's suggested that an individual's involved in the Epstein situation, and then in 10 years' time, it turns out they're innocent. Well, I've documented them here. So I've got to be careful with that. So at the moment, I don't. And I feel like this with the news sometimes. We don't always have to reveal the identities of people to tell the story. So at the moment, I'm trying my best to just rather just ignore that, just tell what happened to a degree. Now, there is a level to this in the sense that there's a reason I'm sharing within my upcoming book part of the Epstein stuff. It's not going to be a massive documentary on it in terms of what I'm writing about. It's really to show the corruption within officials, within people with prominence, and to show these are the people you put on pedestal. These are the people perhaps you revered in the past. And this is the things that are coming to light. But that means that within a decade period, there was an awful lot, sadistic acts done against children at a time when maybe you revered these people. So start looking at people in a different way and stop looking up to them, and start taking back power because we're getting influenced by corrupt people, So that's really where this is. So that's really where it ties in. It's just tying in with me pointing to other issues in the world and then just showing what the world really looks like. Because too many people, they bury their head in the sand. They don't really know what's going on in the world. They don't educate themselves on things. And that's fine because people have coping mechanisms and we have enough stresses in life, of course. So what this book's going to do, it's going to bring to light issues. It's not going to be too heavy because I don't want to sort of bore people. I don't want to make it too intense for people. I just want people to see this is an issue here. This is an issue over here. And this is something else going on. And then I'm going to reveal ways that I think the world could be better. So we're going to show the corruptions and the issues. Then it'll be a case of this is what I think could change. In the same way I've just spoke at the beginning of this video, some of the issues I see. And then at the very end, I'm going to talk about humanitarians. That's not as long, but I think by the end of the book, there's like hope. So we see how bad the world is and it's like corrupt and it's like, this is quite heavy, but I don't want to make it too heavy. And then we'll just draw it towards a more positive outlook. So hopefully people will feel a bit more excited about the potential, but also realize they have the power in themselves to create change. I mean, look, maybe in the future I'll be more influential than I realize. And you put me back 10 years ago, I was fighting through family court. I'm on my knees. It's like I'm at the lowest. I'm poor. I'm struggling, and it's just going from one day to the next, trying to get out of it, trying to work my way through it. So the real point there is I'm not someone who quits or allows anyone to determine my future. I'm always confident in myself, even no matter how the hardship is. It's like I know what I'm capable of and I know how I see the world. And I'm outspoken, I guess, in my own way. And I articulate in my own way. But if someone tried to suppress me and say, what does it matter what you say? What does it matter what anyone says? But if I can speak up on topics and I can stand up for things that I think are important, then so can other people in their own unique expression, in their own unique way. It might only be in your own community, in your own inner circle. Maybe there's only 5 of you and you all talk about this and that. And you say, right, these are things I think need to change. I'm not happy with this in my life. Well, you just start creating those changes. It's the little things that can actually inspire significant change, but just people don't realize the power they have. I'm going to give an example. This isn't me trying to boycott anything, so don't say it that way. I think rather than point anything out, I was going to say a brand or something, but I think it just creates a bit of confusion. Like, yeah, we don't want to do that. Let's say there was a product or service you're not happy with, and you think, oh, what does it matter? Nothing's going to change. Well, things change. They soon get the message when their stocks drop and their freaking value diminishes and the subscription model is being hit. Companies and establishments will abuse people until they realize they can't push them any further. So people always have control. So even if it's not on, even if you don't, speak publicly on things, you don't feel comfortable with this, comfortable with that, you can still instigate change by taking back power of your own life. And then that can create a systematic change as well, where others follow suit or others open their eyes and they think similarly, So all these people with power. So even if you think of someone like Elon Musk, let's say you say, I don't like Elon Musk, I don't like what he stands for. He's worth an awful lot of money. He doesn't contribute positively to society. He seems to play both sides against each other. I mean, I'm just saying that now. Now I'm thinking about it. I'm just running it off. But I think, there was talk that he was helping Ukraine at one point, wasn't he, with the fight against Russia? The next thing you hear, he's helping Russia with their technology. So they've both got similar technologies on the battlefield. He's just wherever the money and the resources are, He doesn't really seem to care about people in general. At one point, he turned off Ukraine's Starlink thing to stop him having communications and internet and stuff, all because he was on a power trip. You see it all the time. If he seems offended by something, he gets petulant, and yet he has an awful lot, a very high wealth that could help change an entire nation, but he doesn't want to because he's only in it for himself. So how could you affect someone like that, for instance? Well, everybody could just start leaving his. It's easy. They're only as powerful as the people that feed them. You stop buying their cars, stop buying all their products. You stop investing in them. You start moving away from X. We completely destroyed Twitter, from my understanding. You move away from that. All of a sudden, the subscription model's down. The buying power's down. And now he can't fund all these little vanity projects. Maybe invest in people who actually do good things, and companies that actually care about the planet and care about people. I mean, that's just one example. But it's like they're only as powerful as people make them. And yet they get ahead of themselves and they think they're the most important person on the planet. They can be rather insignificant and quite a fast thing. Because from my understanding, most of his wealth is tied to stocks. So if the company drops, his value drops. So it isn't an actual tangible resource. It's all make-believe, really. It's all the predication that this continues at this trend and it maintains this value. But it's how much you actually have in your bank account is the question, isn't it? But anyway, I know it's a lot of corruption. I was going to reveal what I wrote. I think I'm going to save it now, to be totally honest. I haven't wrote loads on this Epstein situation. I just started working on it, and I was quite happy with what I've done so far. I don't think there's a real need to go into it. I just thought I'd share it with people that, I'm not scared to have difficult conversations, but I'll pick and choose where I share it. So if anyone ever thinks, oh, look at him, he talks on that, but doesn't talk on that, you have no idea whether I'm talking on that yet, just because I'm not doing it on camera, I may be doing it somewhere else. So yeah, I mean, I don't do everything in the same way. With the books, for instance, think of it this way. I often think of my books as more powerful than the camera. So it's not that I'm afraid to talk about it on camera. It's just that I can go more detail in the book and I can do a bit more research. I mean, there's no time constraint. I get, let's say I talk for an hour or so on a camera. Well, then that's what I've got, that hour. And that's based on my knowledge at that time. But let's say I continue to do research or continue to develop. Well, I can keep enhancing what I'm doing for a book. It's not just what I wrote initially. I can keep going over it. So I don't have to do it. So if it's a fluid situation, I talk about it on camera, the circumstances can change. More news comes out. So some topics I'd rather just keep to book. And I consider book like an archive. Videos are tied to platforms. Platform can come, platform can go. It's just how long will that video be known for? There's a lot of competition. The books, they'll always exist, even after I'm gone. So wherever I put on an ink is here to stay, isn't it? So some things I will talk about on paper instead. But like I say, my circumstance at the moment is quite tight. I'm getting a bit stressed. 1 minute I'm really, really getting depressed, getting stressed because it's hard, Again, look, I look smart now, so you probably think, how's he struggling? It's the clothes. You know, and again, I want people to get away from that. This idea that if someone's wearing a suit, it just elevates them. It elevates the way you look. It shouldn't elevate the way people perceive your mind and the way you control yourself and things, you know. There's going to be an awful lot of impressive people who are modest, who don't dress up. Now, again, there's nothing wrong. I said I actually like looking nice. I do actually like looking nice, but again, depends. Does it fit in with your community? You just look like you know. Again, there's nothing wrong with saying that's how I want to be, but it's like I don't really have a reason to walk around in a suit within my daily life and where I live. But yeah, so if anyone ever saw me wearing a suit in the future and I'm being successful, it's not like I'm trying to dress to impress. I actually quite like to look nice and present nicely. But I think for the most part, you wouldn't see me like that because it's, you know, extra work. And is it entirely necessary? Anyway, I'd like to say this was going to be a longer video because I've got my laptop all ready and I was going to really just share some of the parts, but I sometimes I overshare, and that's a problem. So I don't really want to give away information before I probably should. Like let it, what you call it? I don't know. Just think about like if you don't eat a stew and you put it out, let it stew. That's really what I was thinking about. Just let it build for a bit. Let it, you know, because things will change. I'll read back some of the things I write and go, oh yeah, I forgot about that. I need to add this because there'll be little things. I'm going, oh, I need to add this, need to add that. But I'm confident that if I can pull this book off, it'll be great because it will help people who are not particularly political, people who are not aware of perhaps some of the issues in society, some of the depths within the corruption. These are things that I'm acutely aware of that I want to share with people. And in my other books, it was more about personal growth and alignment and all those different things, empowering people. This is more, let's put a magnifying glass to the world. And it's my way of doing that. I don't expect this to be a series, so I think it'd probably just be the one book. But it doesn't mean I won't in future add to that, because all my books I thought would be one book and look at them. But if I can cover what I want to cover in this time, then it's not saying I'd have to keep touching upon, you know? So yeah, I'll be like, I've got chapter titles already set up, and I expect to add more. But for now, let's just carry on. So if I can get what I've done, like I say, I think this could be incredible if I can pull it off. But it's just the most challenging book that I've decided to write. Just because of the technicality of it all and having to find quotations and things. It's all right me being aware of something, you know, but then I have to find the source to back up sometimes, you know. Otherwise, it's all conjuncture, and I need it to be factual. So I have to align what I say with some factual pieces, statements, or something, or quote from someone, and link it to where I've heard that quote. That becomes an extra layer of work that doesn't excite me in the slightest, to be totally honest. For instance, there's one video I saw. I really wanted to include some of what was said in quote it. I can't even find a video. I'm like, for the love of God. So now I've had to just explain that unfortunately I don't have the video. I don't have access to that video now. I can't quote it. In any event, I mean, I've wrote it here. And again, I'm only sharing this one little bit of a line, I guess. Just, it's not even adding any weight. It's just really what I'm saying. Because I couldn't find the video, I've just said this. Unfortunately, I couldn't find the video I'd seen before, so I can't share it. And I can't verify whether these were genuine victim stories. I read the next sentence. So unfortunately, I couldn't find the video I'd seen before, so I can't share it, and I can't verify whether these were genuine victim stories. So much depravity happened on Epstein's island away from the law, and any witnesses beyond the victims and those intent on hiding their identities and participation. Right, that doesn't make sense. And any witnesses beyond the victims. Yeah, I need to work that one out. I know what I mean. You know, the people who will bear witness to the events are hardly going to want to talk about it. So it becomes a cover-up. So then the only facts we really have is this trace of emails and some photos and the stories from the victims. Because it was all done in such a sly, sinister way that, of course, they didn't want things known. But again, the reason for that is to show the cruelty in the world, but also recognize the prominence of those involved. You know, this is world leaders. These are industry leaders. So this is people in charge of tech companies, those who influence the minds of everybody, like impressionable minds, and even control the media and things. So this is quite sinister. You know how deep and dark this gets. Not only the actions that were taken, but the prominence of those who took those actions. And it has a huge bearing on the way the rest of us live. These are people that make decisions in our lives every day. That's frightening. So that's really why this is quite. On the one hand, it has to be spoke because of the cruelty, but on the other hand, it's like this has a real effect on the rest of the world because of who the people are that are involved. So yeah, that's that. And then I'm trying my best not to reveal what's the book because I'm an oversharer, so I share too much. I think when the book's done, I think it'll shock people in a good way. They wouldn't have seen it coming. What I plan for it. It's not to like. Again, it's not to sort of do any wild statements or anything like that. It's really just to show people the world. And I think once I've shown people the world we live in, some things maybe people hadn't thought about or this and that. And then it's just showing people they have the power in themselves to create that change. And if people start healing, start investing in themselves, all these things, we can really create a beautiful world. But we have to see it, Anyway, it's like I say, I could share too much. I don't want to because it's still very early and I really want to get into it a bit. And then there's days where, like I said, when I'm sort of like self-sabotaging and I haven't got the motivation. I'm fed up. I've worked too hard for too long with no compensation for the work I've done. It's like just keep bashing your head against the wall, and it's just it gets demoralizing. And then there's other moments when I just think, just get on with it, man. The people are gonna need this. And then it's like, okay, and then I relapse. So it's not easy. It's a challenging book on so many fronts. It's challenging because it's challenging in its conception. It's challenging because of how exhausting my life is at the moment. Yeah, it's just challenging. It's pushing me to the brink, to be totally honest. Anyway, I'm not sure if I've gone off track. I think I have. Again, there's so much I can give away, and I just want to. Yeah, there's so much I want to say about this book because I have so much. It has so much potential, and I have so many ideas, but I can overshare and give it away too much. And I just really want people to read it and go, "Wow, wow, 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 wow." Yeah, I didn't. Yeah, forgot about that. Or yeah. Because I'm not a memory box. I remember this and I remember that, and I'll put the pieces together. So I'm going to raise awareness to this, and I'm going to raise awareness to that, and this situation, and that situation. Like I said, then I'll talk about the things that I think, really shouldn't be the way they are, how we can change it, and then other other things, which is quite exciting. But again, so much pressure that I want to be able to write every chapter immediately. I want to talk about the corruptions I see, but also I want to talk about all the things that I think, could change. And then I want to talk about all the good things in the world. It's like I can't do it all at once. So, and then I get tired. Anyway, I know it's been a little bit of a mess, but hopefully it's been interesting enough.